We've just finished December and we did 1.25 million in turnover, which, just saying that out loud, it makes me feel like a complete and utter douchebag. But I want you to understand that the number is just a reflection of the service we provide, to the quality of the service we provide, and to the team that we have that provides the service for our patients. So it's the impact that that has on the local community. And if you really measure what your output is as a chiropractor, as a clinician, is, well, how many people can we help, and how many people can we help in a way that is replicable, it's consistent, and it's ethical, and it serves its purpose. So I want to share these with you because I don't think most clinical owners actually learn these. Some of you guys might learn these the hard way. I certainly did. And it's into 3 sections. So each lesson, and by the way, lesson, I think it was 13 into one of the, where we talk about systems over emotion, was probably one of the hardest lessons I had to learn. Some of them were very expensive lessons, and some of them are actually things that I knew really, really well. I knew I should have done them, I just didn't. And they're broken down to 3 sections. What I believed, what broke, so what didn't go well, and what actually works really well now. So I hope you stay until the end, because every single lesson that we're going to break down has its purpose, and some of them will probably shock you. I actually know that a lot of you watching this have been following us for a while, and you'll probably think, oh, Stefan, I know I need to get better consistency in showing up and having good sleep. Or, oh, Stefan, I know how to set up a referral event and get 6 new patients. Oh, Stefan, I know I should be hiring a CA. Then why aren't you? That is the question. So the first section of lessons is, well, this for me is one of the hardest ones, and that is that the truth hurts. The truth hurts, and lesson number 1 is this. Growth hides dysfunction before it exposes it. And by the way, after each section of the lessons I share with you, I also learned that the behavior shift you need to adopt if you don't want that lesson to keep repeating in your life, in your practice, and so on and so forth. Growth hides dysfunction before it exposes it. What the hell does that mean? Well, that means that sometimes when you're growing and you have problems, there is a delay. An example of that might be you hired an associate, you hired a CA, you hired your manager. You might not realize that you've not taught them the right lessons. You've not implemented them in the proper way. You haven't had an onboarding process for that person. You haven't built a system for that particular role in the team. And the first month looks like they're doing well. The second month looks like they're doing well. And then patients start dropping off. Why? Well, because there was no systems to teach your associate how to talk about table talk, about retention, about keeping people healthy, keeping people well. They just saw the short-term picture. So growth hides dysfunction before it exposes it. Have a think in your practice right now. What are some of those things? What are some of those things that you think, oh, I'm growing, but actually the growth is hiding the problem. It's hiding the problem. Lesson number 2. 100%, one of the hardest lessons for me is, and I still struggle with this, is being busy is the most convincing lie in business. So many clinics that I work with, the founders are working on the logo and they're working on the color of the landing page. Like, dude, what are you talking about? You don't even get to keep patients beyond visit number 4 after running your stats. Your PVA as a clinic is like 6.1. Why are you worried about which way your logo is twisted? Why are you worried about building a hardcover magazine to give to your patients? You have no patients. You have to understand that the truth hurts, which is why we talk about it. But being busy does not mean you're being productive, and it really doesn't mean that you're being effective. I struggle with that a lot myself. I don't want you guys to think, oh, Stefan's got it all figured out. No, I actually built what I call a personal operating system. So that's just a collection of dashboards and spreadsheets, so I can measure my habits, I can audit my time, I can see what needs to be done today based on my weekly, monthly, yearly projections, goals, and plans. So have a think. Are you just being busy for the sake of being busy? By the way, this is going to be a long video, so I hope you guys are making notes on this and actually reflecting on your own journey, because right now, as we speak, we've just made over 1.2 million. In the UK, this certainly is not the norm, and we've done this across multiple clinics. And now I teach clinics how to do that, and I can see that the same principle, the same blueprint, the same formula, when applied, generates similar results. So it's not that we're special, there's just a way to do things, and one of those things is to understand what am I spending my time on, and how is that time being spent based on the results I get. If you're super happy and if you're absolutely crushing it in clinic and in life, personal, professional, maybe this video is not for you. But if you want to find out what other lessons we made lots of mistakes on and we learned, then listen up. Lesson number 3, more patients does not fix your clinic. Having more new patients, and the reason why I know that is because I absolutely know that generating. This year we had actually a little bit less than last year, but we had 100 because December was quiet for us. We had 105 new patients per month. 105 new patients per month, which is absolutely crazy when you think about it. But what that means is, it means that if I generate 200 patients, I'm going to have a short-term win. But if I don't understand the bigger picture, which is clarity, like how do I communicate things with the team? How do I communicate things with the patients? How do I have clarity myself as a business owner of where my business is going and how we're going to get there? What are these milestones along the way? Month 3, month 6, month 12, 5+ years down the line. Lesson number 4. Lesson number 4 is most retention problems are leadership problems. Most retention problems are leadership problems. Now, you might think, well, no, it's never my fault. It's my CS that are not answering the calls, or my chiropractors are not doing follow-ups, or they can't get people onto care, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm going to challenge you with that, because as a small business owner, and we are small business owners, you have the biggest impact, by far the biggest impact to the results of your business. So if you are not able to level up as a leader, and we're going to talk about this in the next few lessons, then guess what? You're going to have the same problems. It doesn't matter who you hire. It doesn't matter what they do. Your standards will always fall down to the standard of how you live your life and how you show up to your practice. So what are you doing to make sure that you're a better leader, so you can pass that on to your clinic manager or your head CA or your head clinician, so that those retention problems are no longer blamed on the patient. They're actually blamed where they deserve to be blamed, which is you, me, the business owners. We did some identifying and running numbers for my clinic personally, and we saw, and by the way, this is why I want you to really pay attention to this, because yes, we had great turnover. Yes, we had the record year. Yes, it was amazing. Yes, we have 105 new patients a month. And yet, more than half the people that get on the care plan with us do not get to the end. Now, you might think, oh, but Stefan, like all of my patients get to the end. Do they? Did you actually run the stats? Do you actually know your data on care plan completion and retention rates and lifetime value of your clients? So I'll show you one of the lessons that I actually think it's one of the most expensive lessons that you will learn if you choose to, and it's probably one of the most difficult ones to apply, even though it's simple, but it's a lot of people struggle with that. But anyways, that's leadership. I think leadership is, we don't take enough ownership of us as how we show up as CEOs, and we just hide behind the actual problems. Lesson number 5 from the truth, and by the way, what I should have said is I've divided this into different sections, and one of them is the truth hurts. This is probably a tough one to swallow for all of you, but if something is not measured weekly, it's not real. And what I mean by that is how you feel about a certain situation has got nothing to do with the situation itself. You have to detach yourself to say, oh, how I feel, feelings versus reality. It's called cognitive dissonance, and a lot of clinicians, I think chiropractic space is not any different than other professions, but definitely exaggerated in our profession. How I feel about something, it's like, oh, but I feel like patients, I don't get good leads. Oh, patients are wasting my time. Oh, this person can't afford it. Oh, I feel like they just need to have a little break from this. And your feelings, if they're not backed by data, actually mean nothing. And I'll tell you why. Because every single time I felt that one of the clinicians was doing really, really good, and I just felt like they were really busy, and I looked at the stats, I'm like, oh my God, they're only busy because we get them so many new patients, or they're only busy because they've been with me for 3-4 years, instead of actually looking at the data. Oh, I feel like all my patients are completing a plan, which is what we said earlier. Well, I absolutely challenge you to go and check that and see if the data supports your feelings. If your feelings are right and you have a good gut instinct, great. Most of the times, it's not true, especially if you haven't been doing business for a long time and you haven't operated at a very high level. I believe gut feelings, and again, this is a slight segue, I believe gut feelings are great, but what if you're wrong? Where do gut feelings come from? They come from typical experience, they come from future predictions, and they come from the environment you surround yourself with, the mentorship and the support systems you have. And if all those are not great, then, why would they get relationship advice from someone who's been divorced 3 times and is still not happy? Why would they get business advice from someone who's not achieved what we've achieved? So really be mindful of how you interpret information, especially when it comes to how you feel. Or even this may not necessarily apply to you, but your team members, your staff. Okay, next lesson. Pain relief is a terrible long-term strategy. This is more to do with sort of tips on how we managed our patients, and every time we have someone new as a clinician joining, it's this concept of pain, 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 pain. And we realized, wow, there's so many people leaving us as soon as the pain was gone, because that was one of the only outcome measures we were looking to achieve. And when that was achieved, there was no value, no reason for the patient to come back. So again, this is an oldie but goodie. Pain relief is a terrible long-term strategy for growth. Hope is not a system. I had a couple of clients and they were just hoping, things will change, and when I get this new person, they will change my business and this and that. And what I realized is, well, maybe. However, if you have hope, and hope is not a system, you are aiming for failure. You're just aiming for failure. You're just delaying the problem. Create a system that when you remove yourself, it acts as if the thing has been done, the thing has been achieved, the thing has been completed. Like, I'm not going to rely on my 5 CAs to be texting every single time someone has an appointment to remind them they have an appointment. No, we create a system. I'm not going to be emailing individually every single client who leaves their plan or leaves their care for whatever reason. I'm going to enter them into a email cancellation sequence. I'm going to then put them into a reactivation, nurturing sequence to try and get, that's a system. I'm not going to be thinking about every single patient that comes in, asking them manually for a Google review. Yes, we might do that from time to time, but we're going to have a system to generate over 350 5-star Google reviews. So hope versus systems. Very, very, very important lesson that we had to learn the hard way. I'm lucky that I've been operating at this level for a long time, but this is more of a lessons I'm learning as well from coaching clients in the industry. Lesson number 8. Good intentions don't survive weak structure. You being a business owner and you having the best intention to help the patient, to help your team, to give them more new patients, to give them an onboarding where they really develop into a great clinician, it's got nothing to do with the results which you actually generate. So your intentions don't mean anything unless it's proven by the results. And having structure is so important when you build a successful practice. And by the way, this is a very, very, very complicated lesson that I learned in 2025, that I just can't do everything myself as a business owner. Let alone still, I haven't treated patients for over 2 years now, and that doesn't mean that we don't have good service. The opposite. As soon as I remove myself from the business, I could start working on all those things, which is actually one of the lessons we'll talk about later. But good intentions just can't replicate good structure. And we'll talk about business structure. We'll talk about what's my business model like, what are my recommendations like, how do we reassess clients, what happens if someone cancels, what happens when I have a new team member joining. All of these things are structures, and that helps. Think about if you guys, for example, want to start a new sport, and let's say the sport is whatever, I don't know, this is where you guys have to excuse my drawing skills, but let's say the sport is basketball, right? We have a ball, we have a basket, and the structure is the rules. We have certain rules, and one of the rules, or one of the aims, is to score more points than the opposition. That's how we define what winning is. One of the structure is, well, we have to have a wooden floor to play on. The basketball has to be a certain size. There's certain time frames in a quarter of a basketball game. There are certain trainers that you'll create better output if you wear them versus you wearing socks or slippers on the field. So these are really, really, really important things that we just apply in every single day in other areas of our life. But for some bizarre reason, we forget that business needs structure. And that's very, very difficult, which is why a lot of clinics that come and work for us, one of the first things we do is we talk about structure. We talk about setting frameworks in their practice. So from this first section, what is the behavior shift that I learned and I wish I kind of paid more attention to in 2025, and definitely pay more attention in 2026 and beyond, is stop mistaking movement for progress. And I'll tell you why. You've all heard this concept of, let's just get rid of this, guys. You've all heard this concept of, I can be going really, really fast. I can be working really, 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 really hard. But what if this whole thing that you're working on, and let's say, we talk about airplanes, right? And the airplane having a destination, let's say their destination is New York City. The plane can be going at whatever it is, 300 miles per hour. But if it's not going the right direction, it can take the plane 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times the amount of work, energy, effort, cost, time, especially time, to get to the same destination. So just because I'm moving doesn't mean I'm moving the right way, with the right intensity, with the right team, with the right structure. Super important. And I often think about that because as a business owner, you probably think, oh, you know what, the harder I work, the more results I'm going to get. Absolutely not true. Definitely not true. So this, for me, is the behavior that I had to learn. Stop mistaking movement for progress. Section 2, systems over thinking. Look, I've moved my whole thing now, so I might as well get rid of all these lines. But the aim here is, let's see if we can do that. There we go. Keep you guys a little bit more excited. Systems over emotion. Patients don't leave because they're difficult or they're just awkward. They leave because you're vague. They leave because we didn't have specificity. And one of the hardest lessons I had to learn in 2025, and I've been trying to work on it for a long time now, is how do I create one of the most simple and yet clear and yet the feeling of importance of completing a care plan. Even if the care plan is like 3 weeks, even if it's 4 weeks, sometimes our care plans are 12 weeks. How can I get the patient to understand that the most important thing in their care is having consistency and continuity, because there are different goalposts that we are going to measure at every single step of their journey. As soon as we become vague, as soon as we become complacent, the patient leaves. They lost the value. There was no value. Why will they keep coming back? So that's something that I'm going to be working on 2026 and beyond, and I have a whole plan of how we're going to be achieving that or working towards it through a customer journey experience. If you haven't watched any of our videos on the perfect patient journey, I have a whole module in where we do the mastermind private coaching, where it probably took me 6 months to record, and obviously it's taken us 10 years to develop in real life in the practice, but extremely important stuff. So how do you create a predictable journey for the patient to know exactly what is coming up? What are the things that keep coming up in the future for them to know that, oh, I need to get to the next level, or I need to get to the next appointment, or I need to now I feel better, now I need to start building my strength and conditioning, and maybe less frequency, but definitely being consistent with my care. Okay. Another lesson that I had to learn is language creates compliance. How you speak as a clinician, but also as a business owner, creates a huge compliance rate with your team and with the patients. Now, of course, that means you can also kill it. If you're wishy-washy, if you're not clear on how you use communication, when you sit down with your team and you have meetings, if you're not serious enough about the changes you're looking to make, the support you're willing to provide for them, there's no compliance. And language is one of the most powerful weapons you can use in business and in life to create freedom, impact, and move cultures. Literally make movements in your practice that you're building. And you know what? You better take it seriously, because I never understand the concept of building something average, because once I built something insane and I look back, I realized it's kind of the same amount of work. If I have a clinic that sees 100 visits a week versus a clinic that sees 700 visits a week, the amount of work is actually the same. It's just you work on different levels. You work on different levels of importance, and the tasks that you choose and the decisions you make are different. But the actual work itself, as a unit of measure, it's no different. So why would I be building something average? And that's what Practice Peak is about. And this is why I get really passionate about this, because people just don't understand that it's actually easier for me to now run a business that makes what we make, and it has actually as of next month, we'll have close to 20 full-time team members. And that's not something normal. And when you have that mindset shift of actually that creates, I just had to learn the skills that I didn't have, but the amount of work I do is not more than someone who sees 79 visits a week. They have to send their emails, they have to manage their website, they have to learn how to market, they have to go and do spinal screenings, they also have to treat the patients, they also have to run the bills. It's the same amount of work, it's just you're working on different things. Language creates movement, okay? Another lesson we had to learn: certainty beats charisma. Every time. People look for a leader. It doesn't matter how passionate you are about stuff. If you feel not certain in a decision that you're making, your team are not going to follow you. If you're not certain that the results you're going to get with the patient are you're going to give it your best shot, and we're going to really try this, and if it doesn't work, we'll stop, we'll change the plan. But if you don't have that certainty, and it doesn't matter how much charisma you have, people are not going to follow what you recommend and how you want to build your practice. Next lesson: care plans fail when identity doesn't change. I'm going to read this one again, because this one is actually as important as some of the most important lessons we've read so far. What I mean by that is this. In order for you, one second, let's just delete some stuff here, guys. In order for you to actually make a difference to someone's life, let's talk about practitioner and patient. This is you, You're the clinician, and this is the patient here. They're feeling sad. They've come in, there's a lot of pain. They haven't got no hope. They've tried lots of different practitioners. You're kind of like the last desperate one. Unless it's a referral. Referral patients are different. Your job from a new patient consult is to make a shift. It's not to give them all the answers. It's not to tell them exactly what's going to happen and how you're going to help them. It's to give them hope that you're very clear on knowing what's going on and the fact that you can help them and you've seen this before and they're at the right place. That's your job. And the way we do that is we teach a concept called the hot button. If you didn't get to their hot button, which is the biggest reason why they actually why they actually booked in to see you, you're going to struggle, even if you have an amazing day 2. I promise you. In fact, some of the best chiropractors in the world might do like a 15-minute day 2 report findings. Why? Because the person had a shift in who they were before they came to see you on day 1 versus who they are at the end of day 1. There was an identity shift, and I call this the vehicle. The vehicle is a new introduction of you taking them to where they are today to where they need to be in the future based on the hot button, which is what is their deepest fear, deepest desire to change, their deepest motivation to make a difference to their lifestyle. If you did not get that, they're not going to shift from point A to point B. They're just not. They're just not. It's not me saying it. It's not me observing it thousands of times. It's just human psychology. We ran a whole 6-week boot camp last year. This year. And some of the comments I had were incredible. And they were from chiropractors who've been practicing for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years. If you understand human psychology and you understand how people make decisions, you will understand that care plans will fail when identity doesn't change. When you don't have the identity shift from that patient coming in and they're like, if they're the same person with the same beliefs, the same psychology after they left you on day 1, you've not changed anything. Even if you have the exact DDX and the exact neuromusculoskeletal diagnosis that you're going to give them next time, you need to have a shift. And that's how you shift patients' identity, and that's how they stay with you forever, because they understand that chiropractic is one of the most amazing things in the world, and their health is one of the most important, if not the most important element in their life. And that's your responsibility, to show them and to guide them through that process. So anyways, the reason why I said that here is because my team obviously had a couple of guys who joined the team, and they're fairly new, so we had to really emphasize the importance of, especially when you're a young chiropractor, you don't understand how patients like have had enough. Some of them they're like on the verge of like, I'm desperate. Like there's absolutely nothing more I can do, and I've like lost my job, and I can't play with my kids. I've lost my identity. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm in pain all the time. I'm desperate. And if you're young and you haven't had those injuries and you're a clinician, it's very difficult to relate that with the patient, right? So that's why we talked about this lesson. Next lesson is your team or teams will copy what you tolerate, not what you teach. I want you guys to write this down. This is I'm very fortunate that one of my mentors, who is pretty harsh with me sometimes, but it works well because it's the truth. One of the most important lessons in life is, in life, you don't get what you tolerate. Sorry guys. In life, you don't get what you deserve. In life, you get what you tolerate. And this for me was such an important lesson, not just in my personal life, not just in relationships, not just with my kids, not just with patients, but definitely with my team. In life, you don't get what you deserve. In line, you get what you tolerate. And therefore, if you are saying something to your team about showing up on time and we're always here first and blah, 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 and you're not there, the first one in the meeting, ready to set the standards. If you say to the team, guys, it's really important for our rooms to be clean and tidy so the patients don't judge us and they feel like they're in a good clinical setting environment where it's going to heal their body, mind and soul. And your life is pretty filthy and you've got stuff everywhere and it's cluttered and you don't look after yourself and you show up to work with a little bit of spilled ketchup from the last burger you had from McDonald's. No, your team are not going to follow what you say. So you've got to understand that a lot of these lessons are about your internal standards as a clinic owner, as a CEO of a company that you've built, your blood, sweat and tears. So a big lesson, a very difficult one to change. If you're explaining things repeatedly, there is no clarity and accountability. I found out, this is for me a hard lesson, not for me to apply, but for me to teach my management. My manager is amazing, by the way. She's so like good operationally. She just bam, 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 like get stuff done. I'll say something and 2 minutes later it's done. But when it comes to communication with the team, sometimes people can be, oh, I'll just send a WhatsApp message, oh, I'll just make them a video, oh, I'll just send an email, oh, I'll just leave their reports on the desk. And what I found was it just wasn't an effective way to make changes to the team and for people to actually act differently. So we had to sit down, and for 2026 we're going to figure out a different way how to communicate with the team so that we actually shift behavior and we keep people accountable, rather than just, because me saying, hey, I want you guys to have courtesy calls with every single ROF is one thing, and I'm putting it on WhatsApp, but actually that thing happening consistently without me having to repeat it is a completely different thing of leadership. So that's where you need to think about, as a clinic owner, how do you step up that so you're not just banging your head against the wall with the same message saying, oh, but I told them. Like, okay, you told them. Are they actually doing it differently? Because if they're not doing it differently, it didn't change the behavior. So why waste more time, energy, effort doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? You know the rest of the saying. Next lesson, consistency beats brilliance. This is, I mean, if you can get both, absolutely incredible. Very, very difficult to, for you as a clinician, as a business owner, it's essential to create consistency habits. For me, consistency is built in routine and discipline, in the systems that I would build, and that's difficult to do. I have a few things that work really, really well for me. One of them is called a accountability tracker. So I have this like little tracker that tracks my habits. So you'll have the Monday, the Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. And then it has little tick boxes for my most effective tasks. And what I mean effective is not things getting done quickly. It's like what moves the needle the most in my business. And then I notice that there's always 2 or 3 habits that I always miss or don't pay attention to. And sometimes that really shows in the result I'm trying to achieve. If you want, drop me a message, maybe put it in the comments in this video, and I'm happy to share it with you for free. The system is part of my personal operating system on how do I create consistency, because I found that it doesn't matter how amazing you are, if you just do something once and it doesn't happen again, it's not repeated, it's not a good thing. You need to be consistent in the thing you're trying to do. Your team meetings, showing up, accountability with the team, marketing, hiring, onboarding, all that stuff. Okay. The military rule, I actually learned this from a very good buddy of mine who used to be in the Marines as a Royal Commando, and they have these like rules that if you spot something that is below the standard, let's say, I don't know, someone didn't clean their bed, and you decide not to do anything about it, you've just set the new standard. And the clinic, therefore, runs on these defaults, which means that if you don't set the standard and you don't keep people up to that standard, and let's say you notice that someone didn't ask for the partner to come back for the results, and for us that's actually quite important, and I noticed that the partner wasn't there, and I chose not to say anything to the manager, or the manager not to say anything to the team about that particular situation. Oh, we just set the new standard, which means we're okay with not having the partner in for the results. And in that case, how many times is that going to happen in different elements of your business? Okay, so the behavior shift here that I have to adopt, and many of you guys also will probably have to adopt, is design the clinic that runs on so that these right, not just things happening, but the right things are happening, regardless if you're in the clinic or not in the clinic. That's just a reflection of the culture and the systems that you've set in place, as well as your structure. Now, I'm going to do a little patter interrupt, but if you guys think that this is difficult, you're right, it is difficult. But if you think it's impossible, because let's say you make 10k a month now, 30k a month, 50k, whatever the revenue is, let's say you have only 1 practitioner, or you've never hired a practitioner, or you have 3 CAs, whatever the circumstances are, I'm going to break your belief system right now. I'm in my late 30s, and about 15, 20 years ago, I couldn't speak English. I had 0 savings, in fact, far from. I had no assets, and we just moved to a country that I literally could not understand anything about. Meeting the right people, surrounding yourself in the right environment, getting the right support, being willing to be open-minded and constantly evolve and learn can move mountains for you. If I can do this and set up a practice like this and now teach people how to do that, you guys should be able to do that too. Because on the other side of the climb, when you get to the top of the mountain, you look around, the climb was definitely worth it. Maybe don't copy what I'm doing right now, because I always teach my private group of clients is don't model the top of the mountain. Don't model what I'm doing when I get to the top. Model what I did at the level, the climb. What was I doing when I had 30k, when we're making 50k a month, or making 75k a month? If you're someone who makes 10k a month, and I'm teaching people how to get to the 100k a month mark, it's not going to work for you. But go back and watch some of the previous. I've basically documented my whole journey in this YouTube channel. Because I wish someone was brave enough to put their face on social media and talk about these things. Because in the chiropractic space, for some bizarre reason, we're so ashamed to talk about money and success and fulfillment. And we just talk about chiropractic and philosophy, and that's absolutely needed. There's nothing wrong with that. But why is everything else like voodoo? We sell health. I don't sell cigarettes, drugs, or alcohol. We sell health. We have one of the best products in the world. And you guys are scared to talk about it, and you're scared to raise the bar, and you're scared to learn the skills that are required to set up an amazing practice. Ah, man. This is why I get so passionate about this. Anyways, leadership skills. This is a big one for any of you who are opening a clinic, have clinic opened, and looking to scale. Number one lesson here was I was the biggest bottleneck in the business. And I still struggle with that one. Obviously, I'm a control freak. A lot of you guys probably similar to me, that when you've built something from scratch, you always want to control it. And as soon as you remove yourself away from that, sometimes the business actually grows. Not just stays the same, it actually grows. Another lesson I learned was not being consistent with your standards hurts everyone. And what I mean by that is, if you have chiropractor X and they're always dressed appropriately, they always show up on time, they always follow the practice rules and the principles you set, and then you get a chiropractor Y joining and they always show up on time and they dress appropriately, and then one time they say to you, oh Stefan, is it okay for me to my boyfriend is a little bit ill and I just want to bring the dog in the clinic, just for that half a day please, I don't have anyone to look after the dog. And I'm like, oh my god, I know I want to say yes from a human point of view, because I want to be a nice person, a nice human. And initially I made so many mistakes. I still make them sometimes, but this is definitely something you guys struggle a lot with. As soon as I say yes to this person, that means that anyone in the future can ask me to bring their pets in the clinic at any given time. And because I said yes to that one person, now I have to say yes to everyone else. So that's a very important lesson for you to learn. The pet example might not be the best example, but I bet you if you think about your practice right now and your team, you can think of many, many different occasions where you just drop that consistency in the standards, and therefore it hurt everyone, because now you either upset the person who you say no to, or you say yes, and then that just completely changes the team culture, and everyone is all of a sudden wearing trainers, no one is wearing their name badges, no one is wearing shirts, everyone is taking time off when they shouldn't be, there's no one to fulfill the clients, and all of a sudden you're the bad guy, the patient's the one who's suffering. So I need you to really, really, really pay attention to this one, because one of the biggest lessons that clinic owners struggle with is not being consistent with the standards they set. Avoiding hard conversations compounds messiness, chaos, and a lot of firefighting. There is so much to say on this, but I'm just going to leave it like this. I have a rule, and some of my private clients know that this is one of the things you struggle with the most. I call it complete the circle. Okay? Complete the circle. Let me explain. If I showed up to work and someone was on the front desk and they were on their phone, that creates a little gap here. In fact, let me just use the rubber. That creates like a little bit of a gap. And it kind of annoys you, right? Like, oh, shouldn't be using the phone. And then the patient comes in and they're just welcomed because the girls were talking in the front desk. My circle is getting a little bit now broken. Someone kept recommending inconsistent care plans and patients kept dropping off care, and then that chiropractor is arguing back with me to say, oh no, but they didn't need it, oh but they did need it, oh but they were driving a Ford Fiesta instead of a Ferrari. Well, that just kind of gets the circle even more broken. And what happens is these things happen throughout the day to the point where what you find is you get one thing happening that completely escalates your the reality of the situation is not serious. Let's say someone just showed up and they're wearing white trainers and your rule is, well, we have to wear smart shoes. And all of a sudden you just explode. You just absolutely lost it and everything is just a mess. You raised your voice at them. You sat them down and you were just a shitty boss. And it wasn't the fact that they wore the white trainers. It was the fact that there were so many things that got your circle broken in that day. And if you just take one lesson from this video as an owner, is by the time you get in your car to leave the clinic, by the end of each day, make sure that you have completed your circle so that you can sleep like a good person and you know you've done your best. And a lot of it comes from, right here, it comes from avoiding hard conversations. You do not want to avoid hard conversations. In fact, the number of hard conversations that you have is directly proportional to the success you're going to have. The amount of hard conversations you're going to have is a direct reflection and direct proportion to the amount of success you achieve in life and in business. Next lesson. If the owner isn't clear, the team is paralyzed. You guys need to know exactly what you're working on, exactly what you want from the team, and exactly what they expect from you. That comes from team meetings, daily catch-ups, weekly catch-ups, having communication channels where they know what's coming up. I use Loom, I use emails, I use WhatsApp, I use in-person events, and that's really, really, really important. Don't blame the team for not doing anything if you're not clear with them what you want them to do. Incentives work, and in fact, incentives work really, really, really well. We had one event this year. We set the incentives. By the way, you have to go and watch it. I think it's the video that said we made 54.8k from one event. We literally made close to £50,000 from that one event because the incentives were created well in the team. And a lot of people that work with me privately ask me, how do you create incentives? So obviously, that's not something I can share on YouTube. But if you guys have any more questions and if you feel like maybe you do want to take it to the next level with your practice, these lessons are just scratching the surface of what we do with our Practice Speak members, because my mission is to raise the bar in this profession, and the best way I can do it is to share what's working for us, to keep people accountable, to show up every Wednesday, to do my coaching calls, to tell people what they're not doing well, to hopefully inspire them to do better and to keep them accountable. One of the final lessons for this leadership reality check was the clinic can only grow to the level of the owner's self-mastery. That's you who I'm talking to. Unless you start to build yourself as a leader, your clinic is not going to grow beyond your level of growth. And just to give you some indication of the amount of, so last year alone, I spent about, this year alone, I spent about £40,000 in personal coaching, development, for my online business, masterminds, and just understanding what do I need to do to get to the next level? Because you just don't know what you don't know. In 2026, I hope my wife is not watching this, she's going to kill me. In 2026, I've been looking for a coach, I'm looking for a consultant, I'm looking for a mentor to take my practice to the next level, because in the UK, no one else has achieved the level that we have. Therefore, it's very difficult to find mentorship. So I'm having to go outside Europe, where some of the, in fact, this is the world's biggest practice. And my fees will be $5,000. Private consulting fee per hour. This is the level of investment I'm willing to achieve for myself, I'm willing to invest for myself, because I know that me understanding what the next level looks like, me having exposure to that, is going to have the biggest ripple effect, not only in my practice, but the things that we're going to be teaching other practices here in the UK. So guys, if you're not part of the Practice Speak community, there I say it, and my promise to myself was to be more harsh with people and tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Well, you're missing out if you're not part of it. Plain and simple. So what is the behavior shift that you need to adopt based on the mistakes that I made and based on the mistakes that probably a lot of clinics make? Is lead with standards, not with moods. Become a leader that has standards, set them, communicate them with your team, set clarity and accountability loops so to make sure that people do follow those standards, because if you saw the standard drop and you chose not to do anything about it, what did we say? You just chose to have a different standard. And the final 3 lessons that I learned from kind of where we're going in next year and line in the sand for 2026 is this. Retention is built way before patients think about leaving. Please, 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 if you have a retention problem, and most clinics do, including ours, stop worrying so much about how do I get another new patient in through the door, because you know they're just scaling more problems if that patient comes in, because your PVA is like less than 5, less than 10, less than 15. What's the point? That is literally what the NHS does. Is here is a quick fix, painkiller, go, see you later, bye, bye, bye. Come and see me when you're dying again. And we don't operate on that level. Another lesson is clinics don't need more tactics. I learned this the hard way, and I've kind of been really tactical for the last 12 to 24 months. I had to be, but you guys just need better rules, and in fact, you need deletion. You need to simplify the way you run your practice in order for you to scale. I probably need that too. So we designed these practice principles, and they're communicated with my team on my annual team meetings. There's 7 principles that show my team how do we run the clinic, how do we operate, and how do we show up. And finally, the winners in 2026 won't work harder, they would work on the right paths with the right people. What I mean by that is, I'm not going to just focus on let me spend more hours working with patients and sending more emails and marketing more. No, I want to work on the right paths, so the right things that move the needle with the right people, which is why I'm going to be investing a lot more in my coaching consulting. We're actually, raising the bar with my coaching business as well. But the behavior that I want to see taking place here for myself as well is to stop forcing, just to constantly oh, I need to grow into growth, to actually start. So don't focus on the output, which is I want to be 10 pounds lighter. Focus on I need to eat better, I need to do 10,000 steps a day, I need to sleep, I need to take my supplements. That's it. So guys, if 2025 taught me anything, is this. Most clinic owners don't fail, they just keep repeating the same patterns. 2026 does not need you to set new goals and new targets. It just needs a new rule to the game. This is why we exist. This is why we're here. So if you enjoyed this video, there's a couple that I absolutely need to watch in order for you to just take it up to the next level. One of them is episode number 57. I wish someone taught me this when I opened my clinic. That was a really, really tactical one. And this one on retention, which we call the black hole in business. And that's the latest episode, I believe, 61. Thank you so much for watching. And I really, really hope I've changed one business owner's life from taking action from this video. Thank you guys. Until next time. Bye bye.